Karen thought hiding my trash cans would teach me a lesson. She said they were an eyesore and claimed she was saving the neighborhood's beauty. What she didn't know was that her little stunt wasn't just petty, it was actually illegal. But the best part? I had the entire thing caught on a security camera, in HD, with audio. She tried to lie her way out, but by the end, the cops had all the proof they needed, and Karen was the one learning a lesson. When I first moved into the Ridgeway Pines community, I thought I'd finally found peace. The HOA rules were strict, sure, but I followed them to the letter. My front yard was always trimmed, I kept noise to a minimum, and my trash bins were always put out on time, never early, never late. But Karen, the self-proclaimed aesthetic enforcer of the HOA, had other ideas. Karen wasn't on the board. She had been removed 2 years ago for overstepping, but that didn't stop her from patrolling the neighborhood like she was queen of the cul-de-sac. If your grass was an inch too high or your mailbox had a scratch, she'd be at your door with a printout of the community rules, highlighted, of course. At first, I tried to stay under the radar. But that changed the day she decided my trash cans were too visible. It started with a note taped to my garage. "Your bins are a community embarrassment. Please relocate them behind a structure or shrubbery. Karen, concerned neighbor." I live on a corner lot. My trash cans were tucked neatly on the side of the house, where the HOA expressly allows bins to be stored as long as they aren't visible from the street. I checked the bylaws. I even called the HOA office to double-check. I was in full compliance. So I ignored the note. The next morning, my trash cans were gone. At first, I thought it was the waste management company. I called them, but they had no record of early pickup or bin removal. I walked around the property and found them. Behind Karen's 8-foot-tall hedges, yes, she had physically taken my trash cans and dragged them behind her property to hide them. Confrontation number 1. I walked over, calmly, and knocked on her door. She opened it halfway, smirking. Me: "Hi, Karen, I believe you have something of mine." Karen: "Oh, I found them in the street. They were blocking traffic." Me: "They were next to my house, not in the street, and even if they were, that's not your job." Karen: "I'm just trying to maintain the beauty of Ridgeway Pines. Some people have to take initiative." I told her to return my bins. She refused. I had to retrieve them myself. From that moment on, I knew I was dealing with someone who thrived on control, and she hated that I wasn't afraid of her. So I did what any responsible adult would do. I installed 2 new security cameras on my property, one facing the driveway, the other pointing down the side yard where the bin stayed, just in case. Round 2, petty escalation. Over the next few weeks, Karen doubled down. She started reporting me to the HOA weekly: trash visible, bins placed out too early, unsightly recycling overflow, all false. Each time the HOA dismissed her complaints, each time she got angrier. Then, one Monday morning, I walked out to take the bins to the curb and they were missing, again. This time I smiled, because my camera caught everything. At 2:03 a.m., Karen tiptoed across the grass in fuzzy pink slippers, dragging both bins across the sidewalk, muttering to herself. She took them behind her hedges again and covered them with a tarp. The calm before the storm. Instead of reacting right away, I waited. I printed stills from the video. I made 3 copies, one for the HOA, one for the police, and one for myself. Then I returned her little favor. I wrote a very polite note. "Karen, please stop trespassing on my property and removing my belongings. This is not a neighborly disagreement. It's illegal. The next time it happens, I'll be pressing charges. Regards, Jason." I taped it to her mailbox. That evening, I saw her outside, screaming at the letter like it was a personal attack from the president himself. She crumpled it up, threw it in her recycling bin, ironic, and stormed back inside. Karen strikes back. Again. 2 days later, she went even further. This time, she didn't wait for the dead of night. At 4:45 p.m., she strutted across the street in broad daylight in front of multiple neighbors and started dragging my trash cans again. But this time, she didn't get far. My next-door neighbor, Dave, saw her and yelled from his porch, "Hey, that's not your property!"
Karen, snapping. It's a violation. They shouldn't be visible.
The HOA already cleared him. You're the only one complaining.
Karen muttered something about citizens' rights and marched off, empty-handed this time.
But that was the final straw. I called the police. What came next? I showed the officers the footage, multiple incidents, all with timestamps, some in broad daylight, some at night. One video even had her checking to see if the camera light was on before continuing her bin heist. The officer chuckled. "You've got her dead to rights." I filed a formal report for trespassing and theft. The officers went to Karen's house immediately. I watched from my porch as they rang her doorbell. She opened it, all confident smiles, until they started asking questions. She looked toward me, stunned, as if betrayed by some grand conspiracy. Then I heard the words I had been waiting for.
"Ma'am, we've seen the footage. This isn't a neighborhood dispute. It's criminal trespassing and property interference."
She paled. The moment Karen realized the police weren't just warning her, but were seriously documenting everything, was when the smile dropped off her face. Her confident posture sagged, and her voice, once sharp and superior, turned soft and defensive. "I was only trying to maintain neighborhood standards," she stammered. "The HOA guidelines clearly say bins shouldn't be visible." The officer cut her off. "Ma'am, even if that were true and it's not, you are not authorized to enter someone else's private property or take their belongings. That's theft and trespassing." Just when she thought it couldn't get worse, the officer added, "We also have reason to believe you've been impersonating an HOA officer based on witness statements and written notes. Apparently, 2 neighbors, Dave and another woman named Carla, had shared messages Karen had sent, signed with phrases like, 'As the HOA aesthetic director, per my position on the HOA enforcement team.' But here's the kicker. Karen wasn't on the HOA board anymore. Hadn't been for over 2 years. She had been voted off unanimously for abusing her position, and now she was facing potential charges not just for trespassing, but for impersonating a board official. The police didn't arrest her on the spot. They gave her a court date and a formal warning. But the real explosion happened at the next HOA meeting. I wasn't even planning to attend. But after the Karen incident blew up, Dave texted me, "You need to come tonight. Bring your video. They're putting her on the agenda." So I showed up. The community center was packed. Turns out I wasn't the only one she'd harassed. Several neighbors came forward. Stories about Karen taking photos of their kids, writing fake violations, even sprinkling grass seed in a neighbor's yard without permission because it was too patchy. When it was my turn, I stood, plugged in a USB, and played the surveillance footage of Karen sneaking across my yard. You could hear the gasps in the room, and the laughter, especially when the camera caught her talking to herself. He'll learn. I'm the only reason this place doesn't look like a dump. HOA President Mr. Langley cleared his throat and said, "Karen, you've been warned about misrepresenting yourself as a board member. We now have multiple pieces of evidence proving you've committed violations that not only break HOA policy, but local law." Karen looked ready to explode. She stood up, pointed at me, and shouted, "You think you're a hero, all because of some trash cans?" The entire room stared at her. The board president calmly responded, "No, Karen, because of the law, and because of cameras. We're filing a restraining order request as a board to protect community members from further harassment." Mic dropped. Now you'd think that's where the story ends, but no. A week later, I received a formal letter from the HOA. Karen had been permanently banned from participating in any future board or subcommittee activity, and the HOA had issued her a $1,000 fine for impersonation and harassment. I also received another letter from Karen herself. No apology, Just a typed message. Consider this your final warning. Your actions have brought shame to this neighborhood. I framed it and hung it in my garage, right above my new extra-large trash bins, ones I custom-ordered with bright green lids and laser-etched text on the side. Hi, Karen. Smile for the camera. A few weeks later, Dave hosted a block party. A few of us neighbors got together and joked about Karen-proofing our homes. Someone even brought a cake shaped like a trash can. And of course, someone played back the security footage on a projector, complete with dramatic music. It became a legendary moment for Ridgeway Pines. Karen now avoids eye contact with everyone. Her hedge has grown taller, and rumor has it she tried to get a lawyer, but even they refused to take her case once they saw the footage. Sometimes, the smallest battles, like where your trash cans go, end up being the ones that define a community. Karen tried to control everyone through fear, fake authority, and intimidation. But in the end, the truth and a couple of security cameras shut her down. If you enjoy these real-life revenge and HOA drama stories, make sure to subscribe to the channel. We've got more shocking, hilarious, and satisfying stories coming your way soon. Because in this neighborhood, justice takes out the trash.